Hi guys, and welcome back. In this video, we're going to be painting together miniature Christmas cards in watercolor. This is the first batch I worked on. It's 3 boxes in different posture. In today's video, we're going to be working on the apples, polar bear, and there's the howling wolf at the candy instead of the moon. Thought that was a cute idea. Um, and yeah, I found these 3 by 3 inch cards at Michael that come with their own envelopes, and they're just so adorable. And I thought this is a good opportunity to do something smaller. I'm gonna mention that I used the arches paper and I ripped it so it has raw edges and it fits inside of this card. So yeah, let's get started with the apples, the glazed apples, which we eat for Christmas too in Romania, where I'm originally from. But here in America, they're very popular for Halloween. So this card can also work for Halloween. I really want to work on something that looks like steel light with the contrast. So something that allows me to work with values and practice that a little bit more, because that's one of the main things that if you master in watercolor, you will progress much faster and it will show in your work. So I'm doing this sketch with the pencil. You can pause the video and sketch it yourself, and I'm trying out some colors to see how it looks. I'm mainly using the Scarlet Lake with lemon yellow and ultramarine blue. So you'll see that dark purple is actually a combination between the ultramarine blue and the Scarlet Lake. And I'm doing a lighter version of that for lighter areas. But I want the background to go pretty dark. So after masking some areas, you saw me using the masking fluid, I'm now pre-wetting the entire sheet, and I will use the purple for the background. I'm using this 2 round brush. I think it's about 2. I'm pretty much using the same brush for the entire painting. It's always recommended to go a little bigger on the brush than smaller, because otherwise you're gonna have to do so many brush strokes, and it just gets a little tiring. So you see this is a work that is called wet on wet because the paper is wet, the paint is wet. So I'm going around the apples and I am ignoring the plane, because you see that white line means that the masking fluid went there. So I will have a white edge of the plate. I'm not worried about that. I can work on the background, and I'm also going around the stems, and I can always lift that. You can see I'm lifting a little bit now. You can mask the entire stem if you'd like. I just prefer the dreamy, a little bit more artistic feel of this technique. And also, if you're combining more technique in your painting, that will show, and it'll look a little bit more advanced. You see that I'm using the Scarlet Lake for the apples, and I'm paying attention, or I'm establishing my light. The source of light in my painting is almost behind myself, behind me. So you'll see the dot of light that I have masked on each apple is somewhat in the middle, and I'm adding color around it. So that's gonna stay white because I'm gonna lift um, the fluid, the masking fluid off at some point. But I do want to create the illusion of a gradient starting from that focal point of light. Um, and you'll see that I also have some red bleeding in the plate area, because that's going to reflect the color of the apples a little. So only once it's completely dry, I recommend you dabbing with your fingers and lifting that um, fluid. And then you'll see that all the areas are very white, which is fine, but we do want to focus the eye, so I'm creating the illusion of shade and just leaving the white in certain controlled areas. I'm splattering some white gouache now to make it more interesting and mimic somehow the snowflakes. And now I'm moving to the second one, that polar bear on the present. Again, I'm making a sketch now, and I want to mention that sometimes when you work on small, cute paintings like these, the ideas come as you sketch. So don't try to go too dark from the beginning. Don't try to press your pencil in the paper. That will create the ridge, and it will be more difficult to change. I did want to have a bear that looks like it's hugging something, and I figured a present would be the most appropriate for Christmas time. So it looks like the bear is tired, sleeping, and just comfortably sitting on top of this present box. Um, yeah, so I'm putting a ribbon there because I want it to look pretty obvious that it is a present, and maybe a bow on the top that will make the composition better and draw it up a little. I'm just trying to establish the best location for that um, bow. And it doesn't have to be a very clear bow. It can be just part of it because the bear is sitting on half, or parts of it they're sticking out, parts are not visible. Um, yeah, so as I'm making the sketch, I'm also thinking about what am I going to do next? What am I going to start with? What am I going to pre-wet first? So I'm starting from the idea that the polar bear's fur is usually a little bit more dirty, muddy, yellow ochre with some almost gray areas. Um, so I am wetting the bear and I'm adding that ochre and gray in some areas. Also, I'm thinking about where is the lighting coming from, and I've decided to make it come from the left, so it hits the butt of the bear and it hits the arm a little. It'll also hit the ear, but the nose and parts of the leg and the arm are going to be in the shade. So always think about where your light is coming from. It doesn't have to be very clear and very detailed, especially if you're making something that is a little bit more like an illustration type. But it's good to have it in mind because this is how you practice basic principles in painting, drawing, really visual. I wouldn't say strictly watercolor, but yeah, we're doing that, and then I really like the ultramarine. Sorry, the cerulean blue for the snow. I feel like that color is very crisp and very clean, so it looks like snow that you're just ready to eat. Um, so I'm pre-wetting the bottom part, and I'm adding some ultramarine, some cerulean, but not too much because I'm trying to still think about which colors are going to be the star. I don't want to make everything saturated. That will just be too much. I'm using a 2 round brush, like I said. It is a natural brush. You can do synthetic too. Synthetic brushes are really good nowadays, and they do last longer than the natural hairs. It just depends on your personal preference. So I'm just creating some color at the bottom, and because the fur is light color, I wanted the background to be dark so the fur can stick out. It can be very visible what is the boundary of the animal. So I am combining ultramarine blue with the Scarlet Lake for the sky. And if it's too saturated, I'm adding more yellow. These are the basic principles, and I found it a lot easier to start with 3 colors, 3 primary colors, and just create any other color than to start with a 12 or 24 pack of colors, which makes it a little bit overwhelming. It almost looks very muddy right now, everywhere. So I'm just testing colors at this stage. It doesn't look perfect. It's by no means the final. But because watercolor can only go darker, not lighter, I'm paying close attention to not making things too dark. Now you'll see I'm adding that Scarlet Lake on the ribbon. You can add any colors you like here. Sometimes I do go with complementary. So sometimes I'll do yellow and purple. Sometimes I'll do red and blue. Sometimes I'll do yellow and green, which are not complementary. They're neighbors on the color wheel. And for the present box, I'll go with this yellow. I feel like it's a clean, crisp color, fresh, and it will look very good with the red. It's still, they're both warm, so it's not gonna create tension. Now I do feel like it can be darker, so I'm adding more color. Remember, if your if your value looks too dark, it's recommended to add more water. If the value is too light, then it's recommended to add more pigment to your mix. So this is what I'm doing right now. I'm adding more pigment, and you will see I'm not changing the brush. See how much of a difference that makes. It just visually creates the shape. And I do keep the same brush. You can switch it, but I'm a minimalist, and I like to use or comfortable. And I don't like to switch too many brushes. And I feel like this one works. You can play with the bristles and create that fur effect. You'll see that the back of the bear it's not a straight line. And you can create that effect with your brush if it's not very wet. You can also use a fan brush, and that makes it even more interesting. But I find this to be sufficient for now. See, I'm adding a few more details. I'm adding the eyes and the nose, which are mainly almost black. But I do not have a black in my color palette. I don't recommend it, and most artists do not have black in their palette. It's always good to create some depth with more colors. So this is actually a dark purple, and I'm using that red there, so that way it creates some sort of consistency with colors. And I'm making sure that that box part on the right, it's darker because the light recently it's coming from the left. Now I'm adding some white gouache, which I'm splattering in the, it can be just small, big blobs, it doesn't matter. I find that gives it more dynamic interest. And there's one more thing that I can do here to make it pop even more, because this is not meant to be a very realistic painting. It's more fun and cute. So I'm adding this ink pen, and I'm just creating an outline, just making some hairs and some lines that are not very straight. So for the third card, unfortunately, the camera's battery died, so I can't show you the beginning. But this is a wolf with big nose, big eyes, because it's a baby. wolf, and that's how you create a drawing for a baby animal. Usually the eyes are bigger, the nose is bigger, the head is bigger, and they're more compact. And instead of howling at the moon, this wolf is going to howl at the candy. So um, I'm making some details there. Again, I'm using the same pen with ink that I find gives it a little bit more dimension, and I'm splattering the background with the white gouache. The cheeks are pink reddish, the candy is red. You can play with colors here as well, and for the fur I use the gray, so basically a purple that I added more yellow to. I hope you have enjoyed this video, guys. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.